I started working on something when I probably should have been recording it, to be honest. Oh well, that's fine. It's whatever. I'm gonna explain it first, and then I might test a few other things out because I got a little bit further. I mentioned this in devlog 6. Swapping character models. I also thought about potentially changing this test player box to be an empty. It wouldn't even really matter because I could just have that as like invisible and then just like have the actual player character just like parented to that so it can actually move. Because that still works like that. Yeah. And technically speaking, I wouldn't even need the icosphere then because I'm just using the cube at that point. There's also a few other things like a door to key to open, a ladder, simple puzzle room, stealth room, weapon pickup, a slaughter room, enemy melee range, enemy types between melee and ranged, roaming enemies, complex enemies, and then swapping cameras. The only thing that I can think of as far as swapping cameras is something like either Silent Hill like or Resident Evil, but I don't know if I want to have like tank controls because so far the controls on this thing are like this is the move and then you have this, so I kind of don't want to do tank controls because I want this to be like fluid with the movement, kind of like the original Alice game. Anyways, let me get into the actual explanation of what I have here. So here I have it where the actual player test box is invisible, but this says collision to change player model. So then, boop, we've got this little guy here. So, and this happens when you only press on it, and what it does is that it works with when this guy collides with the test player box, it sends a message to the player box. It says change cylinder. So this has it where once it receives that, it then adds this object to the thingy. So this guy is always parented to the test player box and does this. So before I had it where it wasn't parented, I had it where it would do this and would just spawn like a bunch of these everywhere. So like as you can see, it's going crazy. Actually, I have a better idea. Let's do it by number keys. This is going to be really convoluted, but it's only because this is debug testing, so there's like a lot of different things that I can have in this, whereas in the actual game, I'll probably not be doing it this way. Let's just say control 1. I'm probably going to have it where there's like multiple different player models in here, but this is just an example. Okay, let me try it that way. Oh, it needs to be set to... Alright. There we go. So, this is set to true. While it's true... No, while it's true, it can't have any collisions. So that does nothing. Okay. Now... if I hit Control 1, it's false. Which means that if it's false, then I can get that. Now it's set to true again. And then when I hit this, it deletes that. Okay, so that works. Cool. So now I can change the player model at will. At least to some degree. Honestly, that could work for like swapping like items in an inventory or some shit like that. Or maybe even like just swapping like whatever objects like or like items in like a first person shooter. Or just items in general. Okay, so this is later the same day that I did the character changing model things, and I have a bit of a better idea for how to do this. Because this has it where these need to be true or false specific, and you have to set them before and then after, which, okay concept. Only problem is that I come into an issue when switching, which you can see that just from having this. That's an issue. And I thought I could actually change this to be somewhat different. Instead of it being like this, I could do detection boxes in spaces like this, where when you enter in one area, it changes the actual character model in that sense. So I don't have to do all that complicated shit like this. It's just a matter of like, if it's in this detection box space, this is true. And then it has this character model applied to that. So, and then when it's not, then it's just always not true. So that's a very simple way of doing it. But I'm gonna fix it so that I don't have to have all this bullshit for this. And I can honestly probably attach it to just this cube even. Yeah, like honestly I could just do that. Because it really is just a matter of like this receiving a message, but if it's just within that bounds, that's no big deal. So yeah, let me try changing that. Collision changes player model. That's honestly really cool. So that means that I can have it with different like objects or like characters even, where it just adds that object, and that object can then have other things tethered to it. So like for instances, so that way that when you do go to play this, yeah, works like that. So that's pretty neat, I think. I need to like make that faster though. Actually, let me do it. That should be fine. It doesn't trigger when you first enter, so if you just are still pressing that, then that might be a bit of an issue. But just the fact that you can still do it like this, it's pretty cool. How do I fix that? Because it's like you would need to be pressing that. But since you're not instinctively pressing it, or like it doesn't like, I think I was having issues with that before in the video where I talked about like the different movement speeds and trying to get the animations working with that, because I got it to where it could change the speed, but whenever I'd press shift, the animation would stop after a certain point, and it would kind of stutter when like increasing, or no, not when increasing, when decreasing the speed, because it would go press shift and then it would go the faster animation, so it would be like this, and then it would go faster, but then when you lift it off, it would just stay stagnant. while still moving. So I think that might be the issue that I'm having here as well with that. But at the very least, I can still just use the cube as an empty when testing the game in general, and then when I go about creating like the little detection zones or whatever, I can just have it where the character is just there. So in and of itself, this works. I've already done like doors and keys. Those are honestly really easy. You just have it as like a property. When you pick up the object, it sends a message, turns the property true. And then you can actually like activate whatever door or something like that, which is fine. So first of all, let me just point out, I don't know if I had mentioned it at all in my 7 or 6. I tried playing around with this ladder, and to get it to work, it really, really sucks. It's really difficult too. I tried almost everything I could. Okay, I was even trying to get Python to work with it, and that only got so far. The most I could get was like just getting the player character to like bounce a certain amount once it collides with the ladder, but even then it just doesn't fully work the way that I wanted it to. So like a good example of what I was wanting to get at was like how like Link climbs like climbable objects or areas in Ocarina of Time, so something like that, and I couldn't get that to work. So I'm just going to revisit that at a later date, but I did actually fix, let me just show you, this thing over here, the texture. So if you had seen or noticed earlier, there was like a little weird blending thing with the texture here, where you could kind of see the texture behind it, and it looked really weird. The reason why is because it was set to opaque, and I had to switch the actual thing. Let me click on it real quick. I had to switch it to alpha sort, and like that actually worked because opaque did this weird thing where like it was clipping. Okay, let me show you. This is probably like one of the better angles. So like as you can see, this is like clipping right here through the texture. Meanwhile, when I go to also add is pretty weird because it has it where it does that. So I just kind of played around with this. Clip was pretty neat because it gives it this weird solid look. I don't know if I'd ever want to play around with that, but that does look kind of interesting, not gonna lie. But alpha blend, same issue, but sort was where I could actually make it work. So now there's no clipping there and it looks natural without it being like having that clipping issue. So but yeah, and it doesn't affect anything else with this either. I don't know if I had pointed out before with this like character swapping thing. I'm probably gonna have to have any sort of character swapping or anything like this that works the way that this does to be where it just like it's only for like visual things and not for like actually swapping out like full characters. I feel like because if I have it where it does something like that, the swapping into the animation like this won't be as seamless because it like even this is like having it something happening when I move regularly as it, but going into that it doesn't do that. So I'll have to figure that one out eventually, but for now that's kind of just stuck like that until I can fix that. And the ladder thing too is also, I just couldn't figure that out. The most I could do is just get it to where like this kind of goes like this and it just climbs all the way up it, but it does it so unnaturally that like even if I were to have like an animation for it, it just wouldn't look natural. Like I could have like maybe a separate kind of object for climbing that just had it where the player does a specific action for it, but it wouldn't be like a natural sort of like climbing like a fence or ladder in that sense. So it's just kind of, it wouldn't look as like I guess natural. So that's sort of why I kind of abandoned that for now. I might eventually come back around to that in some other fashion, but
that's what I have for right now.
Okay, so I think I have an idea for how to make this work. So I think what it needs is an invisible platform. Is honestly what I might be having to look at. Yeah, so I think what I'm gonna be looking at making here is an invisible platform that I can just like freely move, and it just freezes player motion. Is all that I'm looking at doing. I already just made like this little platform here. It's invisible, static. I think what I'm gonna do is, let me see. I think I need to have like a property for this guy. Climb. Seems to be boolean. So when this is true, this can, so basically when that's true and you press these keys, it'll allow you to move. That's essentially what I need to do. So like up. There we go. I think that's like the only thing for this, but I need to have it where it gets a message saying that it's this, that, or the other. That should be good. Yes. I might get rid of the camera movement when it's like that. The only other issue I'm having is just when it gets up to that top part, it just falls immediately. Which means that I'll probably have to overextend the ladder and just have it filled in with like a texture that only reaches a certain amount, is what I'm thinking that I could just do with that, which isn't too bad of an idea. Although, let me see something. It also doesn't immediately face it either, because that was one of the things that I was figuring out the last time. There's like a Python like a line of code that can change the orientation to face like a certain direction. I could probably have it where it just faces that object though. Let me see. Yep, that's how to do it. I don't know why pressing down does that though. Because it's still colliding with that. I might just like have it go back a little bit. That does kind of work though. So I'm gonna have to come back to this, but I got the basics of it kind of working. It's probably gonna end up looking really janky, but that's fine. I'll come back to this. I fixed it. I got it actually working. So the way that it works, I'll show you how it plays out, and then I'll show you how it works. So when you go up to use the ladder, okay, By the way, if you're just like on the side here, it'll just like kind of knock off for a second. But if you're here, it'll lock in. All right, and then even if you like go down all the way, it like you'll back out of it, but like it works. Okay, and then when you get up here, it also climbs over the top. And I got it to do that by using another detection box at the top of the ladder. All right, so when the player character collides with it, all right, here, and then also has pressed W, it'll just add motion in that direction that the player character's facing. So, and it works seamlessly as far as I can. What the fuck? That's weird. But yeah, it works pretty seamlessly. So I just have the detection box that's up there, adds motion, gets you over the thing. All that would be left is really just applying animations for each of the different movements, which would just be like up and down. Probably just like the same animation, but just reversed if it's not like one thing or another. So, but yeah, that's like a pseudo like fake ladder that actually works. And when it's not in contact with the box or anything like that, it will like send messages and delete that like platform afterwards. So there's like nothing to really worry about with that. And then like also just the movement of getting that up here is also really cool. Yeah. And I don't think it really adds anything to that after it's like colliding, because like it's already technically moving at that same speed, so the collision doesn't like change anything with like the actual player character. That took me like way too long to figure out with the ladder, but it's working. It just uses a platform is all it does. And then all it really is just a matter of doing is just making that invisible, and then just like I don't know, could honestly like make this invisible too, and just have it like a texture, like a flat texture on the object is all that it could really be. And there you go. Well, that works perfectly. Not perfect, but it's definitely something. So just a matter of getting like a texture or something like that. And it looks pretty decent too, so I like that a lot. Yeah, now I just need to work on like actually getting like character models together, maybe some concept art too, and like combining a lot of this stuff and making some like playtest rooms before I go on to like actually developing the full on like first level, and then going into like the second and third. There's gonna be like probably less devlog videos after this one. I might try and get around to streaming the other parts of it eventually. But yeah, this super cool. The fact that I was even able to get that made took me forever, but yeah. Anyways, let me just like, but yeah, it only takes like 3 things. It takes the initial ladder detection box, which is that one, the ladder, and then a detection box at the top of it, and then a platform that's in a second level state that just kind of catches whatever the player character is at, and then just like lifts from there. After that point, it's just a matter of like having animations and whatever else in there. That'll be devlog 7. Yay!